What if I told you the reason some people stop seeing results from minoxidil isn't the product failing, but a hidden mineral deficiency that no one talks about? Today, we're going to talk about something very important if you're using minoxidil for hair growth, and that is zinc. Because if you combine zinc correctly with minoxidil, you can support stronger, thicker hair. But if you ignore this connection, you could slowly create a mineral imbalance that actually works against you. Now, let's start with minoxidil. Minoxidil was originally developed as a blood pressure medication. It works by widening blood vessels and increasing circulation to the scalp. When you improve blood flow, you improve nutrient delivery to hair follicles. That's one of the main reasons it helps stimulate hair growth. But here's what most people don't realize. Hair follicles are not just dependent on blood flow. They are highly dependent on nutrients. And one of the most critical nutrients for hair structure, follicle repair, and hormone balance is zinc. Zinc plays a key role in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body. It is essential for protein synthesis. Hair is made primarily of keratin, which is a protein. Without adequate zinc, your body cannot properly build strong keratin structures. That means even if minoxidil is increasing circulation, you may not have the raw materials to build healthy hair. Zinc also helps regulate DHT. DHT is a derivative of testosterone that contributes to pattern hair loss. Zinc naturally supports the enzyme balance involved in DHT metabolism. While it's not a pharmaceutical DHT blocker, it does help keep things in balance. So if you're stimulating follicles with minoxidil but ignoring zinc status, you're missing a foundational piece. Now let's talk about depletion. Chronic stress, high sugar intake, refined carbohydrates, alcohol, and even certain medications can lower zinc levels. If someone starts minoxidil and expects hair growth to magically happen without correcting nutritional deficiencies, they may see limited results. There's another layer. When hair begins to regrow, your body's demand for nutrients increases. Active growing hair follicles require more zinc, more protein, more B vitamins. If you don't supply those nutrients, your body pulls from reserves. Over time, that can create subtle mineral depletion symptoms like slower wound healing, white spots on nails, lowered immunity, or even shedding cycles. So what's the protocol? First, don't megadose zinc. More is not better. Excess zinc can interfere with copper absorption, and copper is also important for hair pigmentation and connective tissue. The goal is balance, not extremes. A reasonable daily intake for someone using minoxidil and concerned about hair health is typically between 15 to 30 milligrams of elemental zinc per day, depending on diet and individual needs. If you're eating a lot of zinc-rich foods like red meat, shellfish, pumpkin seeds, and eggs, you may need less supplementation. Second, consider the form. Zinc picolinate, zinc glycinate, or zinc monomethionine tend to have good absorption. Zinc oxide is less bioavailable. Always take zinc with food to prevent nausea. Third, pay attention to copper balance. If you supplement zinc long-term at doses above 25 to 30 milligrams daily, you may need about 1 to 2 milligrams of copper to maintain balance. Again, this isn't about high doses. It's about physiological harmony. Fourth, support the scalp environment. Minoxidil improves blood flow, but insulin resistance and inflammation can still restrict nutrient. Keeping carbohydrates moderate, reducing sugar, and ensuring adequate protein intake can dramatically improve results. Hair follicles are metabolically active tissues. They respond to internal chemistry. Now, here's something else interesting. Zinc also supports the immune system. Certain forms of hair loss have an inflammatory or autoimmune component. While zinc is not a cure, optimizing levels may help calm excessive inflammatory signaling in the scalp. If someone is using minoxidil and notices increased shedding at first, that can be part of the normal hair cycle shift. But if shedding continues beyond several months, it may be worth evaluating nutritional status. Sometimes the issue is not the topical product, it's the internal terrain. You also want to avoid taking zinc at the same time as high-dose calcium or iron supplements because they compete for absorption. Spacing minerals out improves effectiveness. Let's simplify this. Minoxidil improves circulation. Zinc provides structural and hormonal support. Protein provides the building blocks. Balanced minerals maintain long-term sustainability. If you stimulate growth without supporting nutrition, results may plateau. If you correct deficiencies while enhancing circulation, you give the follicle what it truly needs. Hair is not just cosmetic, it's a reflection of metabolic health. When you combine smart topical therapy with internal nutrient support, you address both sides of the equation. So, if you're using minoxidil today, ask yourself this: are you just increasing blood flow, or are you also supplying the nutrients required to build new hair? Because the real protocol isn't just about stimulating follicles. It's about feeding them. Minoxidil increases blood flow to the scalp, but blood flow alone does not build hair. That's the first thing you need to understand. Hair follicles are living, metabolically active structures. They require oxygen, amino acids, trace minerals, vitamins, and proper hormonal signaling. When you apply minoxidil, you are primarily improving circulation around the follicle. You are widening the blood vessels, allowing more oxygen and nutrients to reach the scalp. That can wake up dormant follicles and extend the growth phase of the hair cycle. But circulation is only the delivery system. It is not the construction material. Think of it this way. If you deliver trucks full of supplies to a construction site, but the supplies are incomplete, the building cannot go up properly. In the case of hair, one of the most critical construction materials is zinc. Zinc is directly involved in protein synthesis. Hair is made primarily of keratin, which is a structural protein. Without adequate zinc, the body struggles to efficiently produce and organize keratin fibers. Even if minoxidil is pushing more blood to the follicle cannot manufacture thick, resilient strands without sufficient zinc. Zinc also plays a major role in cell division. Hair follicles are among the fastest dividing cells in the body during the active growth phase known as anagen. Rapid cell division requires enzymes, and many of those enzymes depend on zinc as a cofactor. If zinc levels are marginal, cell turnover becomes less efficient. The hair shaft that forms may be thinner, weaker, or more prone to breakage. This is why some people notice that even though hair appears to regrow with minoxidil, the texture may feel finer or less substantial if nutritional support is lacking. Another important factor is hormonal balance. One of the contributors to pattern hair thinning is dihydrotestosterone, commonly known as DHT. Zinc plays a regulatory role in hormone metabolism and helps modulate the activity of enzymes involved in converting testosterone into DHT. While zinc is not a pharmaceutical blocker, optimal zinc levels help maintain balance in androgen pathways. When zinc is deficient, hormonal regulation can become less stable, potentially increasing the sensitivity of follicles to DHT. In that situation, you might stimulate circulation with minoxidil, but underlying hormonal stress continues to challenge the follicle. Zinc also supports immune modulation. The scalp is not isolated from the immune system. Inflammatory processes can impair follicle function and shorten the growth phase of hair. Zinc is known to influence inflammatory signaling and support normal immune responses. If zinc levels are suboptimal, low-grade inflammation may persist in the scalp environment. Increased blood flow from minoxidil will not fully compensate for inflammatory stress within the follicular unit. The follicle needs both adequate circulation and a calm internal environment to function optimally. Stress further complicates the picture. Chronic stress elevates cortisol. Elevated cortisol can shift the hair cycle toward shedding. Stress also increases the body's utilization of zinc. When stress is ongoing, zinc reserves can become depleted over time. If someone begins using minoxidil during a period of high stress, but does not address nutritional status, the results may be inconsistent. The body may divert available zinc toward immune support and stress adaptation rather than hair construction. Diet plays a central role here. Zinc is abundant in red meat, shellfish, eggs, and certain seeds like pumpkin seeds. However, high intake of refined grains can reduce zinc absorption because phytates bind to zinc in the digestive tract. Vegetarian or low-protein diets may also provide less bioavailable zinc. In such cases, even with improved scalp circulation from minoxidil, the raw materials needed for strong hair formation may be limited. There is also the issue of absorption. Digestive health determines how well zinc is absorbed. Low stomach acid, which is common with aging or chronic antacid use, can impair mineral absorption. If zinc is not properly absorbed, blood levels may appear borderline even with supplementation. The follicle cannot use what the body does not absorb. Circulation from minoxidil may be adequate, but if nutrient delivery lacks essential minerals, the growth response will be incomplete. Another layer to consider is the increased nutrient demand during active regrowth. When minoxidil successfully pushes follicles into the growth phase, metabolic activity rises. Increased metabolic activity increases demand for nutrients, including zinc. If intake does not rise to meet this demand, subtle depletion may occur. Over time, this can manifest as plateaued results or cycles of shedding despite continued topical use. Zinc is also involved in DNA transcription and repair. Hair follicle cells are constantly replicating DNA during the growth phase. Zinc-dependent enzymes are critical in this process. If zinc status is compromised, replication errors or slow division may occur. The visible result can be reduced hair density or slower regrowth after shedding cycles. You also have to consider the interaction between zinc and other minerals. Excessive zinc without balance can interfere with copper, which is important for connective tissue and hair pigmentation. However, insufficient zinc creates its own problems. The key is not extreme dosing, but adequate, balanced intake. When zinc is in the optimal range, keratin production, enzyme activity, immune regulation, and hormone balance all function more efficiently. Minoxidil does not provide nutrients. It does not supply amino acids, trace minerals, or vitamins. It simply enhances delivery. If the bloodstream lacks sufficient zinc, the enhanced Deliv Aeries system still transports an incomplete nutrient profile. That is why combining minoxidil with proper nutritional support is not optional if long-term hair quality is the goal. Hair growth is a reflection of systemic health. The follicle responds to circulation, but it builds with nutrients. Zinc stands at the intersection of protein synthesis, hormonal modulation, immune balance, and cellular replication. Without it, the structural integrity of new hair is compromised. With it, the follicle has the tools necessary to respond more fully to increased blood flow. The synergy between improved circulation and adequate zinc is what creates the environment where thicker, stronger hair can develop consistently over time. Long-term zinc supplementation can be extremely beneficial for hair health, immune strength, and hormonal balance. But it must be handled carefully because minerals in the body function in relationship with one another. When you increase one mineral significantly, you can unintentionally suppress another. The most important interaction to understand when supplementing zinc is its relationship with copper. These two minerals share common absorption pathways in the small intestine. If zinc intake is consistently high, it can reduce copper absorption over time. This is not a theoretical concern. It is a well-documented physiological interaction. Zinc stimulates the production of a protein in the intestinal cells called metallothionein. This protein binds metals. Interestingly, metallothionein has a stronger binding affinity for copper than for zinc. When someone takes high-dose zinc for extended periods, metallothionein levels rise. Copper becomes bound inside the intestinal cells and is eventually lost when those cells are shed. The result is gradual copper depletion. This process can occur slowly and quietly without obvious warning signs at first. Copper is not a minor mineral. It plays a significant role in connective tissue formation, iron metabolism, red blood cell production, antioxidant defense, and hair pigmentation. If copper levels drop too low, several symptoms can appear. Hair may begin to lose pigment prematurely, leading to early graying. Energy levels may decline because copper is necessary for proper iron utilization and hemoglobin formation. Connective tissues may weaken. The immune system can become less efficient. Over time, the very goal someone had in mind when taking zinc for hair support can be undermined by the imbalance created. Hair follicles rely on both zinc and copper in different ways. Zinc is essential for protein synthesis and cell division. Copper is essential for cross-linking collagen and elastin in the connective tissue surrounding the follicle. It also plays a role in melanin production, which determines hair color. If zinc is taken in high amounts without attention to copper balance, the structure and pigmentation of hair may suffer. The person may notice changes in texture, increased shedding, or color fading that seems unrelated to their supplement routine. The key issue is dosage and duration. Short-term zinc supplementation at moderate doses is unlikely to create major imbalances. The concern arises when individuals take high doses, often 40 to 50 milligrams or more daily, for many months without monitoring or balancing copper intake. Some people assume that if 15 milligrams is good, 50 must be better. Mineral physiology does not work that way. The body requires minerals in specific ratios. Excessive intake of one disrupts that ratio. It is also important to consider dietary patterns. If someone consumes a diet already low in copper-rich foods, such as organ meats, shellfish, nuts, seeds, and dark chocolate, they may be more vulnerable to copper depletion when supplementing zinc. On the other hand, a person eating a varied, nutrient-dense diet may tolerate moderate zinc supplementation more comfortably. Individual variability matters. Digestive efficiency, gut health, and baseline mineral status all influence how supplementation affects balance. Another layer to consider is the interaction with iron. Copper is required for proper iron transport through a protein called ceruloplasmin. Without sufficient copper, iron can accumulate in tissues but fail to be properly incorporated into hemoglobin. This can create a paradoxical situation where iron levels appear normal or elevated in storage, yet functional anemia develops. Symptoms like fatigue, weakness, or shortness of breath may appear. The person might not suspect that their zinc supplement contributed to a subtle copper deficiency affecting iron metabolism. The immune system also depends on balanced trace minerals. Zinc is well known for supporting immune defense, particularly in viral resistance and wound healing. However, copper also contributes to immune cell function and antioxidant enzyme systems such as superoxide dismutase. If copper becomes too low, oxidative stress can increase. Hair follicles are sensitive to oxidative stress. Over time, this can negatively affect growth cycles and structural integrity. Maintaining balance does not require complicated protocols. It requires awareness and moderation. For most individuals, a daily zinc intake between 15 and 30 milligrams of elemental zinc is sufficient when addressing hair concerns, assuming dietary intake is not extremely low. If supplementation approaches or exceeds 30 milligrams daily for extended periods, adding approximately 1 to 2 milligrams of copper may help maintain equilibrium. Some high-quality zinc supplements already include a small amount of copper to preserve ratio balance. Testing can provide additional clarity. Why? Serum zinc and copper levels can be measured, although interpretation requires context. Functional symptoms often provide early clues. Unexplained fatigue, increased infections, pale skin, neurological changes, or premature graying may signal imbalance. Paying attention to the body's feedback is as important as reading supplement labels. It is also wise to avoid stacking multiple supplements unknowingly containing zinc. Multivitamins, immune formulas, and standalone zinc tablets can combine to create unexpectedly high daily totals. People often underestimate their cumulative intake. Reviewing all supplement labels ensures that total zinc consumption stays within a reasonable range. Balance extends beyond copper. High zinc can also interfere with magnesium and iron absorption in certain contexts. Mineral competition occurs because transport proteins in the intestine are limited. Spacing mineral supplements at different times of day can reduce competition and improve overall absorption efficiency. For example, taking zinc with a meal separate from iron supplements can minimize interference. The goal is not to create fear around zinc. Zinc is essential and often underconsumed in modern diets, particularly in individuals consuming high amounts of processed grains. The goal is to respect mineral relationships. The body operates on ratios and balance, not megadoses and extremes. Sustainable hair improvement requires long-term thinking. That means supporting the follicle with adequate zinc while protecting copper status and overall mineral harmony. When zinc and copper are balanced, enzymatic reactions function smoothly, connective tissue remains strong, antioxidant systems operate effectively, and pigmentation pathways remain stable. When the balance shifts too far in one direction for too long, subtle dysfunction can accumulate. Long-term success with supplementation is not about intensity, but consistency and proportion. By respecting mineral interplay and maintaining appropriate ratios, it becomes possible to support hair growth, immune resilience, and metabolic stability without creating unintended setbacks. Hair regrowth requires more than just applying a product to the scalp. It requires a coordinated internal and external approach. Stimulation without nutrition is incomplete, and nutrition without circulation may not be fully delivered. When you combine improved blood flow with adequate minerals, high-quality protein, and stable metabolic function, you create an environment where hair follicles can actually thrive. Minoxidil works primarily by enhancing circulation around the follicle. It widens blood vessels and encourages more oxygen and nutrients to reach the hair root. This can push follicles from a resting phase into an active growth phase. But once the follicle is stimulated, it becomes metabolically demanding. It begins dividing cells rapidly, producing keratin and constructing a visible hair shaft. That construction process depends on internal resources. Protein is foundational. Hair is composed mainly of keratin, which is built from amino acids. If dietary protein intake is low, the body prioritizes vital organs over hair production. Hair is not essential for survival, so it becomes secondary. Even if circulation improves, the follicle cannot build thick strands without sufficient amino acids such as cysteine, methionine, and lysine. Many people attempting hair regrowth focus only on topical treatments while consuming inadequate protein. This creates a mismatch between stimulation and supply. Minerals are equally important. Zinc supports protein synthesis and cell division. Iron helps deliver oxygen through hemoglobin. Magnesium participates in energy production within cells. Copper supports connective tissue end pigmentation. Selenium contributes to antioxidant protection. These micronutrients work together in enzyme systems that drive follicle metabolism. If one is deficient, efficiency drops. Improved blood flow from a topical product cannot compensate for missing cofactors inside the cell. Metabolic balance plays a central role. Hair follicles are sensitive to insulin levels and inflammatory signals. Chronically elevated insulin from high sugar and refined carbohydrate intake can increase androgen activity and inflammatory mediators. This internal environment can shorten the growth phase of hair. When insulin resistance develops, circulation at the microvascular level may also become impaired. Supporting metabolic health through stable blood sugar, adequate sleep, and stress reduction directly influences scalp health. Stress deserves special attention. Elevated cortisol shifts the body into a conservation mode. During prolonged stress, the hair cycle can shift prematurely into the shedding phase known as telogen. At the same time, stress increases the demand for certain nutrients, including zinc and magnesium. If someone is stimulating hair growth externally while living in a constant stress response internally, results may fluctuate. Addressing stress through proper sleep, sunlight exposure, movement, and nutrient density helps create consistency in the growth cycle. The scalp environment itself reflects internal health. Inflammation, excessive sebum production, and poor microcirculation can interfere with follicle performance. Omega-3 fatty acids from whole food sources help regulate inflammatory pathways. Adequate hydration supports circulation and nutrient delivery. Antioxidant nutrients such as vitamin C and vitamin E protect follicular cells from oxidative damage generated during rapid cell division. Each of these elements contributes to the quality of regrowth. Thyroid function is another internal factor connected to hair density. Thyroid hormones regulate metabolic rate in nearly every cell, including those in the follicle. When thyroid activity is low, hair may become thin, brittle, or sparse. Adequate iodine, selenium, zinc, and overall nutritional sufficiency support healthy thyroid signaling. Again, stimulating blood flow cannot override systemic hormonal imbalances. Digestive health determines how well nutrients are absorbed. Even a nutrient-dense diet fails to support hair if absorption is compromised. Low stomach acid, gut inflammation, or imbalanced microbiota can reduce mineral and protein assimilation. Supporting digestion through mindful eating, adequate chewing, balanced meals, and minimizing processed foods enhances the body's ability to utilize nutrients intended for hair construction. Consistency matters. Hair grows in cycles that last months. The anagen phase can extend for years under ideal conditions. Supporting hair regrowth requires sustained nutritional sufficiency over time. Quick fixes rarely produce lasting change. When internal nutrition is stable and circulation is supported, follicles are more likely to remain in the growth phase longer. It is also important to recognize that shedding at the beginning of a new regimen can occur as follicles reset into synchronized cycles. During this transition, ensuring adequate protein and mineral intake prevents unnecessary prolongation of shedding. The body must feel secure in its nutrient availability to commit resources to visible growth. Hydration and circulation are interconnected. Blood plasma is largely water. Dehydration can reduce effective circulation and nutrient transport. Simple habits such as drinking sufficient water and maintaining electrolyte balance contribute to scalp perfusion. Sodium, potassium, and magnesium all influence vascular T1 and fluid distribution. These seemingly basic factors support the delivery of nutrients to stimulated follicles. Physical activity enhances systemic circulation and insulin sensitivity. Regular movement improves endothelial function, which governs blood vessel flexibility. Healthy vessels respond better to vasodilatory signals. When someone combines topical circulation enhancers with an active lifestyle, the overall effect on nutrient delivery can be amplified. Sleep is another foundational pillar. Growth hormone is released primarily during deep sleep. This hormone supports tissue repair and regeneration, including in hair follicles. Chronic sleep deprivation disrupts hormonal balance and increases stress hormones. Adequate sleep ensures that the body can allocate resources toward rebuilding and strengthening hair shafts. When stimulation and nutrition work together, the follicle receives both the signal to grow and the materials required to construct. Blood flow acts as the highway. Nutrients are the cargo. Metabolic stability is the traffic control system ensuring smooth delivery. Remove any one component and efficiency declines. Hair is often treated as a cosmetic concern, but it mirrors internal physiology. Robust regrowth reflects coordinated circulation, adequate protein intake, balanced minerals, stable hormones, low inflammation, and sufficient recovery. Each system communicates with the others. When internal chemistry is optimized and external stimulation is applied thoughtfully, the environment becomes favorable for thicker, stronger strands to emerge consistently over time.